Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Kop Table podcast, where tonight myself, Jay, and Gav are going to be talking you through a question and answer session. So feel free to join in, get your questions into any of us that's involved in the podcast tonight. Obviously, with no football being played, we've still got lots to talk about. The Premier League announcement today, what's going to happen in the future with the games, how are they going to be played, how's the season going to be completed. So starting off, we're going to get straight live into the chat room. Gav's going to be asking the questions, should I say, and myself and Jay will be answering them as best we can. So first of all, welcome back onto the show, Jay and Gav.
Hello, boys. You okay?
Yeah, all good, lads. All good. Great to talk to you again. Chat room is now live, so as the questions come in, I will absolutely throw them at you. The first question is from me, and I'd like to ask you about the FA and the Premier League and the announcements that came out today with regards to the league being finished regardless of time. What do you both make of that?
Go on, Jay.
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I've said all along, you can't just end the season as it is because there's so many things to be resolved. I mean, it's not just about Liverpool. I mean, people seem to be going on saying, all the Scousers are bothered about is Liverpool being champions. And of course, we're looking after our own interests because we haven't been champions for 30 years and we're so far ahead, 25 points, and so close that it's touching distance really from the title. And of course, we're looking after number one. But it's not just about Liverpool. There's loads of other issues to be resolved. I mean, how would Leicester City feel? They've been in the top three places all season, really, haven't they? And for them to miss out on Champions League football for next season would be, a travesty, really, for them as well. And the amount of finances that are involved in it and being in the Champions League. And also the likes of Manchester United, who are fifth, who probably feel like they can get back into them top four places. Chelsea aren't too far away. Sheffield United, Wolves. There's other clubs that have got opportunities to do it, to get into the Champions League. But it's not only that, it goes deeper than that into the other leagues. I mean, the relegation issues in the Premier League, but also the promotion from the Championship, the likes of Leeds United and West Brom. It's a big money spinner for them type of clubs, and also the playoff teams. I mean, someone like a Brentford or Fulham even coming back to the Premier League. You've got to consider that game, the playoff game that gets played at Wembley every year, they say it's the richest game in football, even richer than being in a Champions League final, because the amount of money that's involved in them being promoted from the EFL into the Premier League. And then you've also got the knock-on effect of other clubs in the lower leagues, as I said then. You've got Coventry City, who've been really struggling financially. They had to vacate the Ricoh Arena, didn't they, their home stadium, to play games at St Andrews, Birmingham's ground this season, and they're flying high top of League One. I think they're 5 points clear, so they're hoping to get back into the Championship. So it runs deep. It's not just necessarily about Liverpool being champions. It's the only fair way to every single club in England, in the UK, is to basically complete the season. We're not talking about, you're hearing people going on saying, back when it was the war in the 1930s, they voided the season then. But there's a massive difference. There wasn't the financial implications in football back then. They'd only played 3 or 4 games as well back then. What you've got to consider is this season is nearly over. We're 75% completed of the season. So, it's an absolute nonsense to say the season would be null and void. And it doesn't surprise me at all that sensibility has prevailed, in the sense that, they've said that they're going to suspend. The season's going to basically be extended indefinitely, in the sense that they're not going to say, right, when we get a cut-off point of, well, I think they were saying the 1st of June, weren't they? I mean, I thought it was the 30th of June, but when all the revelations came out from the meeting today, they said the 1st of June, didn't they, that they've cancelled that date now, and it's going to be indefinitely extended. So that leads you to believe that no matter what, when we are safe enough to continue all matches, then yes, this season will be concluded. But you just never know with the government too yet. I mean, if this coronavirus gets worse and worse, then who knows what's around the corner. But it's got to be positive thoughts, hasn't it, coming after that meeting today?
Yeah, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? And the thing is with the sponsorship money and all the TV money that's involved these days. I read something before, like I think the sort of the fee that would be involved for the season not finished between the clubs would be £750 million, 750 million, and the clubs that are involved at that type of money that they're talking it's beyond comprehension for them not to finish the season, isn't it? Even if the games are going to end up being played behind closed doors for a short time until the virus actually settles down and people can get back to some normality. But I just think now that basically there's a lot to do with the government trying to take this away from the football slightly, that the decisions need to be made. Other countries have started to lock down their countries to stop the spread of the virus, and personally I think it's what needs to happen over here, because it's sort of the incline in the death rates of people and stuff like that. It needs to be nipped in the bud now before it goes way off the scale, and I think something needs to be done immediately before it, like I say, gets totally out of hand and it just causes absolute chaos for every person, every environment and people's lives in general.
It's funny, like when you look at it, from a humanitarian point of view, it's very, very serious. It's extremely serious, especially in Italy where you look what's happening. China have it under control. We don't know about Germany, France, but Italy is very, very serious. The UK look like they've delayed reacting for me. Usually you guys are in the UK, I'm in Ireland, and usually the UK and Ireland are on a par when it comes to what they do and what they react and how they react, simply because they're the closest neighbours and they're both islands, rather than being, mainland Europe. When is this going to peak? We don't know. When is it going to go away? We don't know. I can see the season being finished out behind closed doors. That's my honest feeling on it. And I think there is an impact on this season where you won't see football for probably 2-3 months, but I think it might have a bigger impact on the following season. But UEFA and the like have to look at it and say to themselves, we need these domestic competitions finished, because if this goes away and by some miracle they can start football back on normality in say the 1st of September, just for argument's sake, they'll have Champions League, they'll have Europa League. How are they meant to put teams into these competitions if no one's qualified? And it leads to more problems when if you went to next season and went, we wrote off all the domestic season, so the people from the year before, the clubs from the year before can go in again. You're going to end up with more. You'll end up with more court cases, people in casts, all this sort of stuff. So there's so much ramifications. The money is a massive thing, but I think just for the actual sake of football and the way it progresses season on season, this has to be finished. And whether that's, they get to go ahead in June the 1st and they say to themselves, right lads, there's 9 league games left each. You're playing every 5 days for the next, 45 days, which is 7 weeks. And they say you're going to finish late July and we're going to give you until late August to start the next season. That's where it looks like it's going to go. It's crazy. Like Kev O'Sullivan on the chat says, Johnson was talking about 14 weeks in his press conference today. So give it 2 weeks of pre-season. You're talking 4 months. Ian says no new cases have been reported in the province of China. The only new case are people have entered the country from travelling abroad. So it looks like they've got control of it. Kev is asking, could they do like a straight knockout competition in Europe next season if this season drags on so much that they have to shorten the European season? Is that a possibility?
I think personally, then, if they want to sort of take the group stages out of it and shorten the season in that way, then there's lots of ideas that they could come up with. But that, like Kev says, that is one possibility where they just have a straight knockouts. You've also got to take into consideration this season that we've still got cup competitions running, haven't we? We've still got the FA Cup in this country. You've still got the Europa League and Champions League running as well. So there's lots to be fitted in. But I was watching the debate before with Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher before, and Neville come up with a good idea towards the end of the season. I think he put it down as something like 4 weeks, a football festival, he called it, where you're having games Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. Obviously, it's not great for the likes of Jurgen Klopp and his and the way he likes to approach games. I know he likes a lot of rest between games and stuff like that, and players. He wants players 100%. But to get this season finished, it's one idea that could be put out there to the Premier League. But yeah, that's just my own thoughts on it. So if you want to take over, Jay.
Well, to be honest, it's all very confusing, isn't it? Because I mean, you're looking at the Premier League clubs now, and some of them are actually returning to the training next week, and it's bizarre, really, situation, because if there's not going to be any Premier League football guaranteed now until the 30th of April, then I mean, I know they've got to keep fit and they've got to do obviously individual programs and stuff like that. But if you're meant to be self-isolating, I mean, it sort of like defeats the object, doesn't it, if they're returning back to training? But on the other hand, you do have to sort of like still remain fit, don't you? But because now we're virtually guaranteed to not see any football for at least 6 weeks, I mean, it's a strange situation because, you could argue that this could be like a little bit of a pre-season, if you like, because really, normally what tends to happen is in pre-season, you get around about that time off anyway, don't they? And then they have to come back to, pre-season training, and they have a couple of friendly games before the season actually begins again. Now, I mean, to have 6 weeks off now, but the season's not over, so they've still got to keep themselves relatively quite fit, haven't they, and available to play games in 6 weeks' time. So it's a really, really strange situation, and that term unprecedented's been used quite a lot, hasn't it? And, in terms of other competitions, it's like I've seen a little bit of that debate as well before with Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. And Carragher was sort of like saying it was mainly all about the Premier League that needs to be resumed and played to completion. And he was sort of like not dismissing the cup competitions, but saying they should have been on the back burner more so than the league. And I get where he's coming from. You could tell Gary Neville was like, whoa, hang on a minute. Do you think the likes of Man City or Paris Saint-Germain, who've pumped a lot of money into their football clubs and really, really want the Holy Grail? The Holy Grail for Liverpool is winning the Premier League, but the Holy Grail for them two clubs, because of the amount of money that they've spent, is they want to try and win the Champions League, don't they? So they wouldn't agree to that being on the back burner. And also, Manchester United, Gary Neville's team, is still in the Europa League and highly likely to be into the quarter-final stage of that. So, I mean, this is where it comes down to, it's difficult, isn't it, to make an agreement on things, because you can't sort of like sacrifice certain competitions. If you're going to say you're going to complete the season in terms of the actual domestic leagues, like obviously not just the Premier League, I'm talking Serie A, La Liga, League One, the French League and stuff. If you're going to complete all of the leagues and say, okay, we're going to do them first and foremost, but the FA Cup and the Champions League and the Europa League are going to on a back burner and we're not going to complete them, I think you've got to complete them as well. But it's a little bit more difficult to do the Europa League games and also the Champions League games, because it's teams playing each other from different countries, so they're not in the same country. So there's also them other risks, because obviously this coronavirus, it's like it's peaked at various different levels in different countries. So it's all right, Boris Johnson saying, oh well, we could be in a period of self-isolation for 12 weeks or whatever. But other countries are already doing that now, and they're a little bit ahead of us, aren't they? So yeah. It's a difficult sort of like, it's a bit of a conundrum, really, isn't it, what you do with it? But like I say, with the Euros being put back for the year now, it does give us a little bit more scope to get things finalised. And see, my thoughts behind it were, everyone seems to be obsessed with, what about next season? Well, let's be honest, forget about next season. This season needs concluding first. And as you said there, Peter, you can't, and Gav as well, I mean, you can't have a competition next year of the Europa League and the Champions League with teams in it when you don't know who is qualified from all the various different leagues across Europe. So that is a massive indicator to me, the reasons why you cannot just void this season. Because it's not fair, as I say, the likes of Chelsea, Tottenham would get a reprieve then, because they're not going to get a Champions League spot for me this season for next year. So they would be getting a reprieve, wouldn't they? That's unfair on Leicester City, as I said before, who've been in the top three virtually all season, who deserve Champions League football. At this moment in time, the third place, they should be playing Champions League football next season. So that's why you've got to do it. But as I say, because it's so uncertain at the moment and we don't know for definite in terms of when we're likely to start playing football matches again, it's really difficult to put your finger on how it's going to work out next season. I can't see next season being cut short in terms of a 38-game season. I can't see it being any less than that. They're going to have to... The only way around it for me is take the hit on maybe not having the Carabao Cup next season, maybe just completely abolish that and not have that tournament next season. Yeah, I think they will still have the FA Cup because the finances involved for the FA, isn't it? The League Cup's a little bit different, isn't it? Because it's more of a... I know the FA Cup's sponsored by Emirates and the Carabao Cup's obviously Carabao, isn't it? But I think with the FA Cup, it's slightly different, isn't it, to the League Cup? I think that could be cut short next season and not have it at all and not compete in it. And then somehow it frees up a couple of midweeks, doesn't it, to enable like Premier League games and obviously Football League games to take place. But as I say, the dilemma is the European stuff because, again, the qualifying stages normally start, don't they, in the summer months that lead up to the group stages. So I don't know how we'd go about that. But look, we're only here debating about what potentially could happen. But I'm sure like the hierarchy in football, they're the ones, aren't they, that are going to have to come up with, maybe altering the football and calendar because, nobody expected this to happen. No one knew this was around the corner. So it is a bit of a freak situation. And first and foremost, obviously, people's health is more important than anything else. Football comes, a distant second to that. But the only thing I could see is a season being voided would be if there was never to be football played ever again. And that's simply not going to be the case, is it? So the only fair way of doing it for all clubs, not just in England, but across Europe, everywhere, is conclude the season when it's safe enough to do so. And as Gav said before, if that means playing games behind closed doors, then it's not ideal. It's not perfect. I mean, we all want to be there the day that Liverpool actually win the title. We all want to be there the day they get given the title. And Jordan Henderson does his little shuffle and lifts it up aloft, for everyone to cheer and celebrate. And we all want to have a parade. But fact of the matter is, if they have to cram these fixtures in a short period of time, and that means there's no fans there, then so be it, we take it because, if Liverpool were to be robbed of this title, and I say robbed because, we're 25 points clear, and it does seem highly unlikely now that the null and void situation would ever happen. And we shouldn't really be worrying about that now because of the statements that have came out today. But like I say, if that was ever to be the case, I mean, Jesus Christ, I mean, you would think we were cursed. So, thankfully it doesn't seem to be the case, but it is what it is and we get what we're given. As long as Liverpool are crowned champions, that's the be-all and end-all for me.
Do you know something? Like Jay's last sentence there, Liverpool, as long as Liverpool are crowned champions, that's the be-all and end-all. As far as I'm concerned, Liverpool are champions regardless of what happens. If this league is played out, we'll become champions. If it's suspended and just the result stands as is, we're champions. And if it's made null and void, I still consider Liverpool champions. And that's just the way I am. I know some people will say to you, well, he didn't finish it and he didn't do this. Well, at the end of the day, the 25 points clear, and the only thing really decided in this league is that Liverpool will be champions. It's funny though, Jay speaks about the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup there, and we're talking about the Premier League, and the Premier League, from what I've read about UEFA are absolutely intent on these domestic leagues being finished simply because of the rollover effect into European competition next year, and that's where their bread and butter is. And they've even moved the Euros to 2021, one because they have to with regards to the domestic leagues, and two, travel around Europe at the moment is just not happening with the way the virus is, especially where games are meant to be held, and I believe the opening ceremony is in Italy, so that's just not going to happen. But when you look at the FA Cup, they're going to have to finish the FA Cup because we're talking about Champions League places for the league. I'm sure there's people in that FA Cup, I haven't looked at the last last 8 or something like that. I haven't looked at the 8 teams, but surely there has to be somebody in there that won't make Europe through the league position and will be targeting the FA Cup for a European spot. Again, leaving people open to, I don't know, court cases and different things being brought against them because, well, we were in the FA Cup and we could have won it, and you've denied us the chance of going into Europe through that. I think the FA Cup will have to be finished. I really do. How long will it take? I think they could probably do the rest of the league season and FA Cup in about 7 weeks. That would be my thing. Nine games, a game every 4 days, 5 days. gives you about 5 weeks, and then throwing the FA Cup where you have to shuffle bits around, it's probably 7 weeks. It's interesting you talk about them going back into training next week. I'd say, and I know where you're coming from, Jay, it sounds a bit ridiculous that we're meant to be self-isolating and stuff like that, but clubs must be looking at it going, listen, I'd say players are under strict, instruction to be self-isolating at home, and if you come into work, it's the second safest place to be after at home, and they're probably looking at it going, well, we do need to keep them fit, but that would tell me that somewhere in the background they're being told, listen lads, when we get to the 30th of April, if this is anyway levelled off, we're playing games and we're playing them behind closed doors. That's what I think anyway, Peter.
Yeah, most definitely. It's going to have to be sorted out one way or the other. But just one idea I wanted to get your both thoughts on it was, I seen something the other day about, in respect of next season, not shortening the season, but have it in a way where similar to what they do in the Scottish League, where maybe you know more about it than me, Gav, because I'm not totally up on how they do it, but they sort of play so many games and then they have a split, don't they, into the top and the bottom half.
What they do in Scotland is there's 12 teams. There's 12 teams in the Scottish Premier Division. What they do is you're meant to play each other 4 times. Okay, so sorry, there's 10 teams. Is there 10 teams? Yeah, would it be right? 10, no, it's 12 teams. It's 12 teams. So you play each other 4 times, right? And what they do is they set out the first 3 sections of your league campaign, okay? And you play, say for argument's sake, take Celtic as a an example. So Celtic will play each of those teams 3 times, okay? Then what happens is that means you play 33 league games, okay? And then what they do is they split the league into 2 sets of 6. So if Celtic end up with, say they end up with, I don't know, whoever the other 5 are in the top 6, okay? They play those once. And it's all dependent on, if you've played Rangers twice away and once at home, you will play them the 4th time at home. That's how they work it. So basically, you do play everybody 3 times, and then when it's split, you've only 5 league games left against the 5 that are in your mini league of 6. And if you've played one team away twice, you play them at home. If you played one team twice at home, you play them away, and you end up at 38 league games. That's how they do it. But
in respect of the Premier League, obviously there's more teams, isn't there? So it's going to have to be
in respect
done in a different way.
Yeah, because with 20 teams, you will play each team at home and away. It would actually have to be split the other way around, I think. They'd probably have to randomly pick so many teams to play against. It's very
a cup draw type of thing.
Yeah, or they could probably split the Premier League into, say, it's very difficult with 20 teams, because if you have 12 teams, you can do 33 league games and split it down, and you end up with 5. With 20, it's very, very difficult, because you have to play them all twice. You know, the kind of way you have to. It's very difficult to do. I don't know whether they do half the season and then they look at it and split it down, and you play, you'd have 9 games left as opposed to 18. I don't know what way they do it. I can't see that being done. All I can see is it going, they'll be targeting somewhere around September, if possible, to start this league, and they'll basically go, listen, we're just going to go with what Spain do. Spain starting the first week of September every year, every single year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
now I think they may have only 18 teams in their league, which takes 4 games away, which allows them for their winter break and finish up around the same time as the Premier League. But they'll have to knock a winter break on the head. It's just the way it is. But then you have the other complication of this is being delayed. Now we're going to swing it around from starting September to probably the end. It'll probably end up being the end of May, and 10, 11 days later the Euro starts, because the Euros are still there. It's not like they've gone away. They've just been put back a little bit.
That's right.
So it's still a problem there, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. And like we say, it's basically next season. It can be put on the back burner, can't it, until this actual 1920 season is completed, and then they can start to think then when's the next season gonna start, and when's it gonna finish with the Euros in mind and things like that. So yeah, I think there's 1 or 2 questions in the chat room there, isn't there, Gav? If you want to go to Jay.
Yeah, Jay, there's one. You know, Kev O'Sullivan's pointing out that the African nations has to be fit in. He's also saying, you know, he's commenting on Scotland there, and he's saying 12 teams in the league splits. Jay, what about, this has just come into my head, Jay, but what about where they do something like they split the Premier League in two? And what they do is they do 10 top seeds and 10 bottom seeds. They mix them evenly. You play each other twice. That's 20 games. And then you end up with, you know, the top 4 out of each go into a knockout competition to go and win the Premier League. Could they end up doing something like that to shorten the league but keep the competition honest, I suppose?
I really couldn't see them doing something like that, to tell you the truth. I mean, you know, the idea of starting the season maybe in September time and extending it to further into May is a big possibility. But I also do think that, you know, you've got to consider, you know, there is the Euros next summer, and because they've already put it back once from this summer to next summer, it's not going to happen again. And obviously the African nations as well. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because no matter what, they need to come up with some sort of plan of action now, because, you know, this is for unforeseen circumstances and something has to give, really. And to be honest, I genuinely think the League Cup should go, because that just basically takes away any midweek action. And of course, then you can play Premier League games there. I really could not see them changing the dynamics of how a Premier League season runs in the sense of less games, or in terms of like what you're saying there, where seeded teams and the way they do it in the SPL in Scotland. I just can't see it happening. So I think the only sensible solution in my eyes would be to just basically get rid of the League Cup, because the midweek opportunities there to play Premier League games. If you look at the Championship and League One and League Two, they play a lot of games in midweek because obviously they've got more teams in their divisions. And, you know, I could see that happening with the Premier League next season. I really could.
Could they pull the Premier League out of the League Cup and literally just make it the Football League Cup? Because if you pull the Premier League out of the League Cup, they go and play the competition anyway. You put it to the league that, look, we won't have the Premier League teams in it because we have to get this Premier League back around and back on track because of the Euros there. And a Football League club could probably will end up going to Wembley, winning a competition, and end up getting a European place for it. Could they do something like that?
What you've got to consider, it's not just the Premier League, though. It's not just the Premier League. That's like stopped, though, and needs games to be played still, though, is it? The other divisions still have to, so their season's going to start just as late as the Premier League, isn't it, in theory? So, you know, it still defeats the object, doesn't it, really? I think something's got to give, and that's the competition for me that'll probably fall by the wayside. I mean, there's even been talk anyway this season, before all this, you know, pandemic hit, you know, across the world. I mean, people were saying they should really do away with the League Cup anyway. Now, why have we got that League Cup? I mean, if you look at other countries, they haven't all got like 2 cup competitions. You know, some of them have only got 1, haven't they? So what's the need to have 2 in this country? And I know, like in England, we pride ourselves on, you know, we've always had that, haven't we? We've always had the League Cup, and now it does carry a European place, a European berth for next season. I get that. But the fact of the matter is, this is an unusual situation that we're involved in now. And I just think if something's got to give, for me, it would be the League Cup. And as I say, it opens up the windows then of the midweek opportunities to play Premier League games, because we're starting the season late. And, you know, no matter what, they're going to have to try and play a little bit of catch up, because they're going to want the season over by May time because of the Euros the following summer.
The only thing for me, what you could do is with the League Cup, is you could still go into the competition, but for example, Liverpool, United, all the teams, they could play their under-23 sides and agree to play the games all away from home, which would leave midweek fixtures for Liverpool to play at home, for example. So as long as you're in the competition, you can play your under-23s, but they'll be away from home at a league club. Yeah,
and still frees up that midweek to play for the first
Premier League. Premier League teams can still play at their grounds, yeah.
Play Premier League games, yeah. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, sorry. Kev says, he's talking to me here. He said they could do it if the Premier League gave into a fund to compensate for lost revenue to the league clubs. That's another thing, I suppose. You know, league clubs, like I know where Jay is coming from. The League Cup is the standard one where you go, listen, we need some wiggle room here, and that takes out probably 6-7 match days in a season for clubs, you know. But the league clubs, like, they do depend on, you know, drawing Liverpool at home, the likes of MK Dons or Shrewsbury. You know, all right, Shrewsbury was the FA Cup, but in the League Cup, you know, they look forward to this, and it's a big payday for them, whether it's at the gate or whether it's television. So I don't know if league clubs will go for that, but I know where Jay is coming from. For me, it's a decent idea to go, listen, once off, we have to take the League Cup out of here. We just need to rejig things and reset it, and we need to push, you know, a 9-month season into probably 8 months, and we're starting a month late, so it's just the way it's going to have to be. It's a very interesting subject, like, apart from all the problems going on at the moment in the world with regards to COVID-19, it's just very interesting to speak as the inner workings of football, and you start to realise how difficult it is to actually organise and plot a season, you know, when you look at it, and people would say, why did he have, you know, we've seen it, why are they playing that night, and why are we playing that night, and why can't we move this, and why? I suppose it just shows how difficult it is, you know.
Schedule. There's just one. There's one question there off Keith Plunkett, Gav, regarding contracts, and he says, will they be deferred? Will there be a deferred transfer window? What's your thoughts on that, boys?
Go on, let Jay take that.
Well, it is a strange one, isn't it? Because players are going to be out of contract, and there has been the talk that there'd be short-term deals and rolling contracts by month and stuff. Because, you know, it's obvious that clubs are going to need the players that are running out of contract. They're obviously still going to need them, aren't they? And also, you've got to consider the players that are out on loan. I mean, you know, Liverpool have got Harry Wilson out on loan, haven't they, at Bournemouth? And I'm pretty sure that they'd want to try and keep him to stave off relegation, because he's been one of their better players this season, hasn't he? And, you know, for instance, like, would Liverpool want him back? Because if we got an injury or something to a player, you know, we could bolster our squad. So, you know, there is a lot of questions that remain unanswered that are, you know, it is difficult, isn't it? And it is tricky, and that's why there's arguments for and against, isn't there? And people are saying, even about, like, one of our own as well, Adam Lallana, people have mentioned him, and, you know, he's going to be out of contract in the summer, and there's talk that he's going to go to Leicester. But I'm pretty sure until this season's completed, then the players, they're going to have to come up with some sort of, you know, deal with the clubs on a short-term contract, whether it be for a month or 6 weeks or whatever, because I can't see it being a case of, like, you can move to another club, because it just opens a can of worms, doesn't it, really? It can't really be done. They'll have to remain at the clubs that they've been on the season-long loan at, or, you know, obviously to see out the season, the final season with the clubs, in terms of someone like an Adam Lallana, or the free agents that there's going to be. Like Willian, he's another one, isn't he, at Chelsea as well, who would be a free agent in the summer. So I just think that these players are going to have to see the season out, you know, with the clubs, and, you know, they're going to have to come to strike a deal and a compromise, really, of an extended deal, whether it be for a month, or, I mean, some players might end up getting an extra 12 months out of it, an extra 12-month deal at the club. But, you know, I'm certainly sure there'll be something in place where, you know, players can do a short-term deal with the club.
I think when you look at it, like, the season is going to end, whether this season ends in May, June, July or August or whatever it is, the season is going to end, and you're going to have whatever break it is, whether it's just a couple of weeks until we start a new one, or we finish. I would think the target is to try finish this season by mid to late July, and then say, right, 6 weeks we start again on September the 1st. That's the way I think they want to do it, and that's why I think the behind closed doors thing will be put in place, and it will be extremely strict around players, because what you don't need is they say on May the 1st, right, we've set out because come May the 1st, the season's nearly over, you know, in real terms. You know, if nothing went wrong, you'd probably only have 2 league games left. So they're probably going to have to rejig the whole fixture list. You know, I don't think they'll get to May the 1st go, who are Liverpool due to play next. I don't know if they'll do that. I think they'll end up just saying, right, from May the 1st, here's the new fixture list. They're going to have to be extremely strict, because you don't want the player coming back playing and then somebody contracts it again, and he played against them last week and they have to go 2 weeks again. So it's going to have to be very strict. With regards to the contracts, you know, Harry Wilson, like Jay says there, Harry Wilson's on a deal with Bournemouth until probably 5 p.m. on Sunday the 17th of May when the league season is due to finish. Now, we've seen clubs had a meeting today, and we've seen the stuff that come out of it where the Premier League have extended the suspension indefinitely until they can finish the season. I think that'll be the case with the players on loan and stuff like that, or players running out of contract. I think common sense tells you that clubs that have players out on loan, or clubs that own players that are running out of contract, will say, look, your contract is not up on 17th of May. It will run until, with an asterisk beside it, until the last game of the season is completed. You know what I'm saying? Like, most players that are out of contract are out of contract around June the 4th, I think it is. So that'll just put an asterisk beside it until the last game of the season is finished, and that'll be across the board, and everyone will agree with that. And okay, clubs might have players that they just want out the door, but at the end of the day, that player was meant to be there till the season was finished. It's not his fault that it's gone on a couple of months. You still have to pay him. Yeah. What can you do? That's just the price you pay, for football to continue. So I agree with Jay. I just think that there will be a deal have to be put in place. I think it'll be a sweeping across the board deal where everyone will say, right, any player out on loan is on loan until the final whistle. Whenever we finish this, anyone out of contract is now out of contract after the last game of the season finishes, and everyone there's a date picked on it, and that's where they go. I think that's where they'll end up.
Yeah, there's just another couple of questions in the chat room there, Gav. Ian Avies, he's come up with, he said he's sure with the amount of money involved in the league, they could test every player and ensure they all remain isolated for a month while they play the season to a conclusion. Is that something that you think would be feasible?
I think it is. Like, what are me and you and Jay being told by your respective governments? Self-isolate, stay away from people, wash your hands, don't put your hands in your mouth, all this sort of stuff. If you can stay within a small group of people, i.e. your immediate family, and you keep hygiene is kept to a strict level, i.e. hands, mouth, stuff like that, you're absolutely fine. I think players are exactly the same at home. I think clubs will have to ensure that if they make the trip from home to Melwood or Anfield to play, that people are under strict instructions. You could literally end up with every member of staff in that ground walking around with a mask on, gloves on. People literally dousing the place with disinfectant, no matter literally following players around with disinfectant. You could end up with something like that to ensure the league gets done. I think football clubs are ultra professional, and we've seen a couple of players contacted, and a manager in Arteta. I think Hudson-Odoi got it. There was one or two others maybe ended up getting it. But overall, for 20 league teams with 25-man squad is 450 people, is it? And we've had 3 or 4 cases. I think that just shows how professional they are in everything they do. I can't see a problem in them all being tested, picking a date behind closed doors, and literally them players literally go from house to training to match, and all them situations that they end up in is ultra careful in what they do with regards to hygiene.
Yeah, most definitely. I'd definitely agree with that. Just another one in the chat room there. If you want to take this one, Jay, Kev O'Sullivan, he says, where do you see Gini Wijnaldum and his contract situation? It seems to be dragging on for a long time now. I know James Pearce said something, didn't he, that the talks have still been going ahead, and it's probably likely going to come to a conclusion where he does extend his contract. But how do you see that contract one playing out, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, it's been spoken about for a while now, hasn't it, really, about Wijnaldum, and some people have said that he's already signed and he will sign a new deal and it'll be announced for pretty soon, and hopefully that is the case. I mean, we don't know yet. There's no indication of that. Talks have been, they've been held, and we're just waiting, really, aren't we, for confirmation of it. And I do think that he's been a very good player for Liverpool, hasn't he, ever since we signed him for £25 million, and I do think he does deserve a new contract, really. And I think the only downside to it, people are looking at his age. I think he's 29 now, nearly 30, is he? So that's the issue when you consider you've got Jordan Henderson's a similar age. You've also got James Milner, who signed a new contract, you think he's 33 or something, isn't he? So Liverpool, people are looking at it saying, maybe we'll get a younger midfield player. But what you've got to consider is Adam Lallana's going to move, isn't he, in the summertime as well? And Wijnaldum's proved this season at times he's been fantastic for Liverpool. Yeah, he has his criticism, doesn't he, about he goes missing in some games. But to me, I think he's a big game player. He always turns up in the big ones, and he scored some really important goals for Liverpool, and obviously very nearly scored another one against Atletico Madrid in the last game we had, which unfortunately we went out, but he did score the goal that took the game to extra time, didn't he? So, he does score big goals for Liverpool. He did in the Champions League last season against Barcelona in the semi-final as well, and even the season before that against Roma in the Stadio Olimpico. So, like I say, he's a big game player, and for me, he's one of my favourite midfield players at the club, and for me, he's got to sign a new deal. There's no doubt about that, and hopefully he will do.
There's one here from Key Plunker. He asks, what do we make of the reaction of rival fans to the news that the season will complete whenever it returns? Peter, what do you make of the reaction to the fans of other clubs when they heard this news today? We'll finish up on this one. We've only a couple of minutes left, but what do you make of that reaction?
Yeah, sorry, my microphone was on mute then, and I was just going to say this is probably the best person to ask this question to is Jay. He's got his big social media account there, over 100,000 followers on Twitter.
He's a superstar,
he gets a lot. Yeah, he's top drawer up there, and the fans, a lot of them seem to, as soon as Jay put something on there, rival fans seem to want to have a pop at him and things like that. But Jay handles himself well, and I'd just like to put that question to him. And what do you make of that, the reaction, Jay, to the fans now that the season is likely going to be completed?
You know what? I just think it highlights, doesn't it? I mean, we pride ourselves on being unique, and we call ourselves the Unbearables and all that, and it just goes to show, doesn't it, how dislike and the hatred that there is out there for Liverpool. It's absolute madness, really. I mean, Liverpool have been by far and away the best team this season. There's no shadow of a doubt behind that. But then you get all kinds of the bitter fans coming out saying, well, mathematically you haven't won it yet, which is strictly, that's correct, that is true. But come on, we're 25 points clear. It's not like we're 2 points clear, is it? And, people would rather the season be void and null and void, where obviously there was no champions, no one qualifies for Europe, no one gets relegated, no one gets promoted, just so Liverpool don't win the league. And I'm talking the likes of Evertonians bringing in the Heysel disaster into it, saying, well, that's just to start forgetting all the Europe, getting teams banned from Europe, or, like all them years ago at Heysel, just really, really poisonous, tweets coming out of some of them. It's absolutely incredible, the dislike and the contempt that they've got for Liverpool just because we might be winning the league this season. It's absolutely incredible. Even Manchester United fans, let's get real about it. Manchester United can ill afford to be out of the Champions League again next season, but yet you've got some of their fans, just because Liverpool might win the league, the first one for 30 years, would rather the season be void. But it goes deeper than that. You've got Arsenal fans as well coming out saying it, Tottenham fans, West Ham fans. It's absolutely incredible. You'd think, wouldn't you, that, football fans, like purity behind it all, the way Liverpool have done things as a club the right way. Jurgen Klopp's a very likeable manager, isn't he? Very charismatic. Why would anyone want someone like Man City winning the league, who, obviously they've rigged the fair play stuff, they've been banned from the Champions League now because of it, they're a money club, aren't they? They've only really existed in my eyes since 2010, 2011, the last decade. They were nothing before that, you know what I mean? I used to admire them in the lower leagues when they get 30,000 gates at main roads. Now all of a sudden they've got money, and, the fans, they go to matches, dressed up as an empty sheet. It's incredible. I just think it's laughable to think that how can Liverpool, an institution like Liverpool, the way we've gone about things in the correct way, we've been outstanding this season, flying high top of the league, how can we be more disliked than someone like Manchester City, who basically are proven to be, to fiddle the books, to cook everything, basically. They're an absolute joke of a club. But yet, fans of other clubs would rather this season be void just so it avoids Liverpool being crowned champions. It's incredible, and really it's two fingers up to all them now, because, for some bizarre reason, they were happy for this season to be forgotten about and move on to another season. It's like I've said to numerous people, forget about a new season. How can you even contemplate a new season when this one hasn't ended yet? Do you know what I mean? It's like, let's get into the real world. As we've already covered on this podcast, at the end of the day, there's so many issues that need resolving. And it's not just about Liverpool. It's certain other clubs as well. Qualification for Europe, promotion, relegations. There's a lot to be resolved. And like I say, I think it's been a bit of an eye-opener. I mean, I know Liverpool were not really very well liked up and down the country, but it's been a massive eye-opener, really, certainly in social media terms, to how much we are disliked. And that's why when we do reconvene playing football matches again, and Liverpool do go on to win this Premier League title, it's going to be very satisfying.
Extremely satisfying. Just extremely satisfying. It doesn't surprise me. I know where Jay is coming from, but it doesn't surprise me, and it's a fear in people. It's simply a fear in people, because I've said for a long time, even going back to, even go back to 13, 14, but especially in the run-in last season, there's a certain age group in the media, punditry, ex-players and stuff like that grew up watching Liverpool winning everything, and it ruined their youth, I suppose, and they're worried about it now, because they're looking at it going, I remember this happening in the 70s and 80s, and this could happen again if Liverpool, come back and win a Premier League title. Where could they go from there? It's a fear. Yeah. It's the only thing stick they have to hit us with, is that we haven't won a Premier League title. That's the only stick they have to hit us with. And while they try to hit us with that stick, they then realise that, hold on, we've watched these knock Barcelona out after being 3-0 down after a first leg. We've seen them do what they've done against Dortmund. We've seen them do that run in 2005, and look what they've done. They went and won an FA Cup on the back of that the following season. Klopp's been in the European final it would have been 4 out of 5 seasons if he'd have made a Champions League final this season. They know that nobody feeds off momentum better than Liverpool. Nobody. And the biggest momentum shift that will ever come, I think, in the Premier League for the next couple of years is Liverpool winning a title. And when they do go and win it, the rest of the teams won't have anything to beat you with. They won't be talking about Gerrard slipping. They won't be talking about you've never won a Premier League title, which is ridiculous. Liverpool have won 18 league titles. And then where did he go? Where did he go from there? They've nowhere to go, and that's what the problem is. It's not. It's not about football. It's not about tribalism. It's not about people going, oh, well, we just don't. It's not that they don't like Liverpool. A lot of football fans out there like Liverpool. It's the fear of what will happen when they've nothing else to beat them with, and on top of that, Liverpool are champions, and where can they go from there? Because Liverpool. Listen, any football fan, being honest with you, stand back, whether they're United, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Spurs, whoever they are. If they step back and take a look at their own club and take a look at Liverpool, they go, well, look, Liverpool are better run. Their infrastructure is amazing. They're looking to expand Anfield, which will probably go somewhere close to 75,000 when all is said and done. They'd be league champions. They have probably the best manager in the world, in my opinion. They have a brilliant squad. They have a young squad. They have players coming through. They can go anywhere they want in the market. And where do they compare to us? Well, we're way behind in infrastructure, in stadium, unless you look at Spurs, who've done a great job on their stadium. But when you actually factor everything in and stand all these clubs against each other, Liverpool are by far and away the best. By far and away the best. When you add everything up, put a scoring system on 10 different issues around football and clubs, and Liverpool will outscore any of these, and I guarantee you that. And that's where the fear comes from. It's all down to fear, and the fear and the end of the world stuff will come true when Liverpool are crowned Premier League champions.
Yeah, most definitely. Like you say, it's fear and envy of us towards us, isn't it? And like you say, all the off the pitch, Liverpool with the sponsorship deals and everything, the miles ahead. And like Jay says, some of these fans who are commenting, your real football fans, the knowledgeable football fans out there will admit it, and they'll come out and maybe with gritted teeth, some of them, they'll say, yeah, Liverpool deserve to be Premier League champions. And I have seen that from Manchester United fans. I've seen it from Everton fans, but on the other hand, like Jay says, you get the ones who are sharing a brain cell with a flea, and they just start saying ridiculous things, null and void, all that tainted title, absolutely ridiculous statements, and you just think to yourself, well, do us a favour, go and get yourself an education, and then come back and talk to us later on.
Do you know what? You have some great guests on this show throughout the season. Pete Selby at Leicester, you've
cracking lad.
Oh, unbelievable fella. And if you go through all the people you have on this show, yourself and Jay, brilliant show, brilliant guests, great previews of games, every Premier League game as it goes throughout the season. And if you go, for argument's sake, to Pete Selby and say to him, Pete, what do you think of Liverpool? He's going to tell you they're brilliant. He's not going to tell you, well, you haven't done this, you haven't. He's going to be very, very honest with you and tell you that Liverpool are the best of this, the best of that. He's 100% going to tell you they're the best team that have gone to the King Power this season. And he's going to be extremely honest. I wouldn't listen to these people on social media that are probably just there to wind people up, are probably there and they're just saying stuff because it's a herd mentality. Go and speak to the likes of Pete Selby and other genuine fans of football clubs that are able to look outside their own bubble and go, yeah, they're just the best. Similar to the way Manchester United were in the mid to late 90s. They were untouchable. And you had to turn around and say they are untouchable.
And hand it to them, yeah.
Yeah, and there was probably Liverpool fans at that time going, well, this and well, that. And that's the way it is. But at the end of the day, I believe Liverpool are probably one of the best run clubs in the world. I think they're the most appealing club in the world at the moment to footballers that want to progress their career and win things. And I think they're the biggest football club in the world. It's as simple as that, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. So, yeah, if we want to wrap it up there, boys, then we can do, because I know you've got a show coming up, haven't you, shortly, Gav, with Grizz and who's the other person?
Grizz and Keith. We're discussing our World 11 that has caused lots of trouble this week because people have picked the wrong players to win the team, and we're on the forwards tonight. I can tell you that Ronaldinho was picked ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo, so it'll get tasty at about 10 o'clock, yeah.
Controversial, yeah. But like you say, it's been there's a lot of things going on Twitter with World 11s and five-a-side teams, basically trying to get away from the fact that we've got no Premier League, and people are trying to get the boredom out the way, aren't they? And there was a thing on Twitter today with Andy Robertson, wasn't there? He done an Ask Robbo, and there was a lot of fun things come from that. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we can still do with our time, but yeah, we shall look forward to the season prevailing, and once we get back to that, I'm sure we'll all be happy once again. So thanks very much, Jay. Thanks very much, Gav, for our live question and answer session on the Kop Table. Thanks everybody who came onto the chat room. Ian, Keith, Kev O'Sullivan, who else was on there tonight? Yeah, anyone who commented into the chat room, thanks very much for your interaction, and I'm sure that myself, Jay and Gav will do one of these in a couple of weeks or whenever anything happens for us to chat about. So yeah, thanks very much, lads.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, that's the Kop Table podcast Q&A session all done. Thanks very much to Gav. Don't forget, everybody, if you're not up to date with it, we always support the No More Knives campaign in the Merseyside area. If you want to check out the things going on over there with Paul Bentley and all the guys, we're a big supporter of them, and yeah, we're fully behind the No More Knives campaign in the Merseyside area and surrounding areas. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll speak to you all very soon. Goodbye.